Hi, art friends. Have you ever wondered why is it that some artists are wildly successful and they're in exhibitions and their artwork is selling, and yet other artists are kind of flopping around? They aren't exhibiting anything. They can't get anyone to buy their artwork no matter how low they price it. Have you wondered how much of a factor is raw talent in this whole equation? And have you wondered, is there something else going on here? Something else that maybe they don't teach you in art school? I promise you that if you do follow these principles, you will be able to better position yourself to be in exhibitions and to make art sales. And you'll be able to live your dream of being a successful artist. So first of all, thank you so much for being here today on the Artist Life podcast with Dena Tollefson, and I'm so glad you're here. And let's jump right in. So this first habit is knowing how to sell your work. And these first three habits that I'm going to share with you all have to do with art business. So we're focusing here on specifically how to sell your work. And art sales can be very tricky. So all of us can learn art marketing tips that will help our work show in its best light. So some things that you'll want to do in order to be able to sell your art are to, first of all, create what's called a body of work. So a body of work consists of 10 pieces, at least 10, and they should all be done in a similar style. They should all be done in a similar technique, using kind of similar colors or similar. There should be a thread that runs in this group of 10 objects. Whether that would be like 10 paintings or 10 sculptures, 10 drawings, 10 watercolor paintings, 10 oil paintings, whatever it is, you'll want them to look like they all came from the same artist. So that's called creating a body of work. And the reason that you want to have, say, 10 pieces is because if you're going to be exhibiting your work in a gallery or an outdoor show or an indoor show, a juried exhibition, something at your library, cafe, a restaurant, wherever it is, you're going to want to be able to have these 10 objects that you offer to be able to show, and there should be a thread or a theme that runs through all of them. And the reason that you want to have this theme is so that your work is recognizable within this body of work. So you'll also want to be sure to have your own website, and your website should either have a .com or a .org ending. The reason for that is you want people to see that you're serious about your artwork, and one way to do that is by having your own website. The other benefit of having a website is that you can control completely the look of it. You can control what's on it, what's not on it. You can put things like your biography on there. You can have information about you, personal information about you, how people can contact you. If you're showing in galleries, where people can find your work, what galleries they can find it at. If you're doing art licensing, some places where people can find your merch. But this is really important in your website that you have this, so that so you have a cohesive place. You can put those. If you have these photos of the 10 or more objects art objects that you have ready to display, you can put those. So a lot of times, like if you're going to have an exhibition, the people will want to have, they'll want to know, what are you going to be showing? Or if you're interested in working with a gallery, they'll want to say, well, let me see what your work looks like. You can send them over to your website, and they can really get a feel for the body, the creativity that you have, the body of work that you're offering, the depth of the offerings that you have. And then the other thing is, if you're going to be selling your originals on your website, you can put your prices, and you can even sell directly from your website. You can sell to the public. You can do a thing, they can have a shopping cart on there, and you can do shipping, and you can send directly. Now, I sell prints on my website, but I do not sell my originals. And that's an important don't, is if you are involved with a gallery, do not sell directly, don't sell your originals through your website or through other sites. Just work directly with the galleries that you have, because you don't want to undercut them. Now, if you do sell through galleries, the galleries will expect you to have your own website, but do not put your prices on that because they're taking care of the selling for you. So, for example, on mine, I have some paintings out there. I do sell prints through my website, but not my originals. But I've got, for example, some paintings that are not at a gallery, and then the gallery will have their own set of paintings that they're selling. But I have mine on my website just so people get a feel for what types of work I make, but I don't make sales of my originals through my website. So now that you have a website and you have a body of work of 10 pieces ready to go, you'll want to be able to practice your 30-second to 1 minute speech about if somebody comes up to you and says, who are you or what do you do? You'll want to be able to introduce yourself as an artist and talk just very briefly about your art, and you can practice that in front of a mirror so that you're ready if somebody comes up, because you never know. Someone that you meet might be interested in buying your work. They might be an art enthusiast who might be able to someday set you into a situation where you can be exhibiting your work, and those connections and that networking part is super important. So be ready with that 30-second or 1 minute elevator speech of who it is you are and what you do. Now, here's what not to do. A big rookie mistake is to have false modesty or to downplay your work or to put yourself down in your work. That's what you don't want to do. That's really, it's like a bad thing to do. To say, because like if somebody comes up and admires your work and you say, that old painting, or that was not my best, or I have a better one to show you. You never want to do that. And the reason for that is because if someone came up to you and they liked a certain piece of art that you made, if you downplay it or you say there's something wrong with it, then they're going to think that there's something wrong with them. Why did they like it? And it's going to diminish you as an artist. It's going to diminish them, the person who admired it, because they're going to feel like, well, maybe they don't have good taste, or maybe they don't know because the artist themselves doesn't like it. Or if you go and you compliment another artist and you tell them that you what you like about their work or whatever, and they say, I'm that's not very good, I'm much better now, or whatever. It just comes off as bad. It's just not a good thing to do. So the simple way to handle this is if somebody comes up and admires your artwork, is just to say thank you so much, or hey, I appreciate you saying that. And what that does is that elevates the person who gave you the compliment. It invites the ability to make a sale. They might feel compelled, hey, I resonate with the artwork, I resonate with the artist, I might be interested in adding their art to my collection. And so that's the kind of feeling, the kind of vibe that you're going to want to be able to give off in order to sell your work, is setting your mind in a position where I am worthy of having my artwork sold. I'm worthy of having my artwork shown and seen by the public. That getting into that mindset, it's just like a superpower. If you have that, then this will radiate from you, and it will make you confident in your work, and that will show, and people will pick up on that. So the second habit, and this is again all tied with art business principles, is knowing strategies of how to price your work. So knowing the secret and knowing how the strategy of how to price your artwork will take you from the very beginning, your first art sale, all the way through to the end of your art career. So at the beginning, the key here is to set your prices based on your sales history, and if this is your first sale, that's okay, and also based on your reputation. So you're going to want to start out with prices that match your reputation and your sales history. So you can compare with artists that are local to your area, and also you'll want to compare with artists that are doing the same kind of medium as you. So if you're a watercolor artist, compare with local artists that are also watercolor artists. If you do acrylic and oil, those are kind of comparable. Compare with them. If you're doing sculpture, compare with other sculptors in the same type of, if you do clay, compare with other artists that are also working in clay. But what you want to do is also look at their reputation and their sales history. So if you are a new artist, you're going to want to be comparing with other emerging new artists. You don't want to compare yourself against someone who has a strong sales history. Try and set your prices compared and do it based on how big something is, how large something is. So small paintings, you'll want to compare with other local artists doing similar work that's like yours, that is also small with a similar kind of reputation. Or big paintings. If you're making big paintings, compare with their big work in order to set your initial prices. It is always better to start too low than to start too high, because when you start low and you start having a sales record, then you can build up, over time. Also, be sure to make your work in a variety of sizes. So the reason you want to do a variety of sizes is because art collectors, sometimes they might be looking for something small and a little, there's a little spot in their home or their office they're trying to fill. Other times they might have, a place over the sofa, or a big wall that they're trying to fill. And so if you offer sizes that are comfortable for you, and everybody will have that idea. Like some artists, this might be small, that's medium, and then this might be large. And other artists, this might be small, that might be medium, and then something gigantic is their large. But if you offer, say, at least 3 different sizes, then what you can do is you can have a variety of prices, different price points. So the small pieces would be less expensive, the medium would be your medium expensive, and then your biggest would be your most expensive works. And then so you can offer different sizes and different price points. And that is a strategy for being able to be that you'll make more sales if you have a variety of sizes and also a variety of price points. And the other key here too is that when you're setting your price, be sure to allow for the things like shipping. If you need to ship it somewhere or send it somewhere and you're including free shipping, or you're shipping to a gallery or an exhibition, include that in your price. Your cost of your materials, make sure you've factored all of that in. And then also your time. Make sure that you're allowing and giving yourself, some compensation for the artwork itself. And I have a friend, an art friend, who actually this was just horrific for her. She realized that she had been pricing her work and actually losing on every piece that was sold when she figured out her art materials and, all the other things that she was doing. So she ended up like, okay, why am I literally losing money on every sale I make? That doesn't make any sense. So she restructured her prices so that she would be making, a little bit of profit and then also covering all of her costs. So you want to be sure, make sure you have low enough prices, but don't have them so low that you're actually either losing money or not making, hardly any money at all. You want to have a happy medium. And then over time, as you're making sales, slowly you're going to be raising up your prices. And kind of something that I do is I will only raise prices when I can't keep up with the demand. And so that's kind of a sweet spot, is you'll realize like, okay, hey, at this time and at this point in my career, I'm able to make work and sell it. But if you raise your prices up all of a sudden too high, then the art galleries that are representing you, or the people, the collectors that have been buying your work, they'll all of a sudden be like, oh, I can't afford this anymore, or I don't want this artist anymore. And then all of a sudden you're stuck because you've got your prices up here and nothing is being sold. So the key is move very slowly over time and raise those prices up over time. But don't ever lower your prices, because kind of the kiss of death is to all of a sudden lower prices. There's nothing that annoys people more than if they bought your artwork. Let's say they paid $1,000 for a painting, and then a certain size, and they go look on some website or on your website, and they go and they look and see like, oh, that size is now $500 or $800. Well, what happened? So what you want to do is be able to show value to your customers, to your galleries, to everybody who's buying your work, that over time, what they bought years ago is going to be going up in value. So this third habit also deals with the business side, and it is knowing where to show your work. So the first question that you should ask yourself is, how do I feel about a stranger coming and seeing my artwork? Do I feel comfortable with that, or I do not feel comfortable with that? And that answer, and everybody will have their own, their own response, and there's no right or wrong answer, but however you answer that will dictate whether it's better for you to have somebody else sell your artwork or whether it's better for you to sell directly. So if you're like me, you would prefer to have somebody else sell the artwork. So then you would be kind of like what I do, where I sell my artwork directly through art galleries. There are other ways to have somebody else sell your work, like through an art co-op or, a group art show, something like that. But that answer will actually dictate what the best route is for you, and it's a very personal thing. So the pro of having something like an art gallery sell your artwork is that it frees you up so that you can just make the artwork, and then they take care of the marketing, they take care of the lighting, they take care of sales and shipping and credit card and checks, however the customer wants to pay. They set up this absolutely beautiful environment to show your artwork, and they have professional sales staff. But the negative of that, or the downside of that, is that you're going to have to give up some money in order to do that. The art gallery will take typically anywhere from 35% up to 60-65% of the sale, and a pretty normal amount, or pretty typical, is 50% of that sale. So that's just something to keep in mind, is if you're going to have somebody else sell it, you need to pay for their time, for their, rent of the space, for their sales expertise, and that type of thing. So just to give an example, let's say that you have a painting that is going to be selling in a gallery space for, say, $200. And if it's a 50-50 split, then when the painting sells, then the gallery would get $100 and you would get $100. In the same way that if it's a $5,000 painting, and if it sells with a 50-50 split, then you would get $2,500 and they would get $2,500 when the artwork sells. Now, if you're going to be selling direct, then the benefit of that is that you would get to keep really all that money. So in the first example of $200, or the second example of a $5,000 work of art, you would be able to keep all or most of all of that amount of money. And then you'd have, if you were to sell, for example, at an art festival, then you might have booth fees or an entrance fee or something like that you would need to give to the organizers. But you'd basically get to keep a lot of that, the majority or most of what that sale is. And that's because you not only were the artist, but you also were the salesperson, and you were responsible for the display and the sales and the sales transaction and that type of thing. And you can also choose to sell your artwork through your art website. Now, I personally, because I'm dealing with a gallery, I do not make any sales of my originals to individual people. I have all the galleries take care of all of that for me, but I do sell prints. So if you go to my website, DenaTollefson.com, you can see that I'm selling prints. And I also do art licensing, so I have merchandise that sells of my works, but just the originals, the one original painting, the unique painting, those are sold through the art gallery. Now, you can sell your artwork through art galleries like I do, but you can also there's lots of other things. And I've got a really great video that if you haven't already seen it, you may want to take a look at that after this video. But it's all about sales venues or ways to sell your art. So you could do like Redbubble, you could do Etsy, you could do Instagram, you could do Saatchi Art or other online art galleries. You could do art licensing, which is kind of its whole other thing. That's not dealing with originals. That's dealing with basically the image of your work, but that's another way to make money as an artist. That's kind of a side issue, but that's another thing to look into. But other things that you can do would be like farmers markets. You could do sales through a restaurant. If your local library has your work on exhibit, or a local hospital. Oftentimes they have a thing where the public can buy, directly from the artist, and then that venue might get a portion of the sale. So like a hospital, they might take, maybe 10%, 15% of the sale, and then you get the rest. So there are lots of these great ways that you can look into lots of different venues. It doesn't have to just be a direct sale where you're selling to somebody, or a sale through an art gallery. There's all these other venues and all these other opportunities that you can get your work out there and you can make sales. And then here's kind of a caution or a don't. The one thing that you absolutely never want to do, what is the kiss of death, if you are represented by an art gallery, is you never, ever, ever, never want to make direct sales. But once you're in an art gallery, don't make direct sales to people like through a website or just really any way, because what that does is that undercuts your gallery. So they are, like we talked about a little bit about before, is they invest a lot of their own time and money. They've got sales staff, they've got a building, they've got lighting, they have insurance, they take care of your shipping, they do all these things, but if you were to, like, let's say someone were to reach out to you, a client saw your work in an art gallery, they reach out to you personally and they say, hey, can I get that painting or a different painting from you? And what they're doing is that person, it's unethical. It's unethical for you, and it's unethical for the buyer to reach out and try and get something cheaper than what they could get in the gallery. They're hoping that, because they know that you've got a commission relationship with the gallery, and so they're going to be like, oh, can I get this for, could you sell it to me at a discount, or would you sell it to me directly? And then they're thinking it's going to be cheaper than what they would get at the gallery. And what that does is that undermines your relationship with the gallery. You never want to do that. The gallery or the sales venue that you're working with is your partner, and so you want to show them respect just like you'd want them to respect you. So that's just a little tip, is if you're making sales on your own, that's no problem. But once you're, working with a gallery, absolutely don't make direct sales, because that will undermine your gallery artist relationship. All right, let's talk about habit number 4. So habit number 4, I got the best advice from Stan Wiederspan, who was the first gallery I was ever with. This was back in the year 2000. Stan Wiederspan told me that the goal, and this makes so much sense, the goal is that when a client walks in the door of the gallery, that they see your artwork and they know that it's you, that you have a recognizable style. And if you think about famous artists that you might know, think about Van Gogh, think about Picasso, think about Monet, Chagall. A lot of these things that you're thinking of a specific image or a style, because this artist has worked hard to develop their own unique look. So a coffee shop owner or a gallery owner, someone who is wanting to display your artwork, what they're looking for is a consistent look or a consistent thread. So maybe it's the colors that you're choosing, it's the subjects that you're choosing, it's the way you apply paint onto your canvas, or a watercolor artist, it's the methods that you're using. They're looking for something that is something where it all works together, or it all looks good together, and it looks like the same artist made it. That's what your own unique look is, or your own voice. And it takes time to develop that. So really, pretty much every artist, what you'll do is over your career, you're going to be learning about these different types of art, and you try out different styles, and you go, and over time, it just happens organically. What happens over time is you develop your own unique look. And so don't worry if you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have a unique look. You actually do, and you don't realize it. So what you want to do, what you want to think about is be genuine. Just be you, be yourself. And what will happen is that will start to automatically come out in your artwork. So, and God made you unique. There is nobody else in the world that has your perspective, that has your mind, that has your specific talent set, that has all of these things together in one combination. You are the only one that has that. And so putting that expression out in your artwork is putting a gift out to the world, and it's being uniquely you. So people buying art today are looking for something genuine. They're looking for something that is honestly coming from inside someone. It's easy to copy something else. It's easy, but that's essentially a forgery. And so the key here is to come up with something and do work that is your own free expression. So here's a don't, and here's what you don't want to do. Don't fall into the trap of using that nasty old AI to take over your artwork. It's fine to use AI to maybe get ideas or to get something started, but the key with AI is it's fake, it's just generic, and it feels generic, and people can pick up on that. And so it's really important that you put what's authentically you out there, because people don't pay money for AI art. It's just not a thing. But people do pay money for things that are coming genuinely from an individual person, from their mind and from their soul. All right, on to habit number 5, making art the secret of a successful art career, long-term successful art career, or even short-term or a successful art career, is to make art a priority in your life. Making art or art making, make time, carve out time for that, and make that a priority. I'll tell you a little bit about my background. So I was raised as an engineer and trained as an engineer. I can be an engineer, I can do it. I wanted to actually be an artist, and my parents said, "Hey, you're good at math and science, so like your dad, so go ahead and be an engineer because it pays the bill." So I did that, but I never really felt as fulfilled as I did when I'm making art. So I actually did both. So when I graduated from Iowa State, an engineering degree, went to work in industry, but all that time I was always carving out time to make artwork. And I'm so glad that I did, because it balanced me, and it was really my area of passion. So over the years, got married. My husband and I had kids, and all during that time, when the kids go to bed, I'm making artwork, and got into my first gallery in 2000, and then was doing always both. And so it's a thing where if it's important to you, you'll find time for it. And the key is that you want to always think of it almost like exercise. Making art is an exercise for your mind and for your soul, and I guess kind of in a way for your body, because if it releases stress and does things like that, it's good for you to make artwork. But making it a priority is really important. So in my journey, I had been working as an engineer and also making artwork for galleries, and over time it got to be, I guess, just too much. So I made a decision back in 2012 to leave engineering and just focus full-time on artwork, and that's what I've been doing since then. And I just feel so happy, but I'm glad to have had both, to be able to do both. But the key here for me was that I made time, and I encourage you to also always make time. It always feels like our world and everything is so busy, but if you can make time for making art, this is really key to being a successful artist, is that you're going to continue to make that and don't ever give up on it. So, and a key here is to develop a good habit. So schedule time in for making art. And that's a big secret with professional artists, is they don't wait for inspiration to strike in order to be painting. They're always painting. And what will happen is a habit will develop in you, that you are making art and then the inspiration comes while you're making the art. So that can just be really tempting, as like, oh, I haven't gotten out my brushes for months or for years because I didn't feel the inspiration, or when I felt the inspiration I was doing something else. So that's kind of a recipe for disaster. What you want to do is incorporate making art into your daily routine if possible, or at least your weekly routine. And what will happen is over time, this will be natural for you to do this, and it will really help with your art career and with your art sales. So what you don't want to do is make excuses for not making art. So this is a no-no. Don't make excuses for not making art. Like, oh, my girlfriend or my boyfriend's taking all my time, my husband or my kids, my grandkids, whatever it is. Work is taking all of my time. I can't make art because of this. I can't make art because of that. These are all just excuses that will get in the way of you having a successful art career. So the key here is to focus and just do it. Kind of like that sports thing about exercise. Just do it. Same thing with art. Just do it. So secret habit number 6 is follow your passions and your eccentricities. And the idea here is to dive deeply into whatever it is that motivates you and moves you and you feel passionate about. When you see something, you're not going to have the same response for every possible subject that's out there to create in artwork. There are going to be certain things that tug at you more than others. Those are the things that you'll want to really focus on and, pretty much ignore everything else. And the reason for that is because when you feel passionate about something, you will put more energy into it, there'll be more feeling into it, and the work will be more genuine. And so everybody will have their own thing of, what it is that really floats their boat. What is it that they're excited about? Some people, they love to paint sunsets, and some it's people, or it's animals, or certain types of animals, or it might be barns or farmyard scenes, or it could be, starry skies or trees, whatever it is. But the key here is that if you think about famous artists, they would have certain specific things that they would paint over and over and over and really get into it and delve into it. And they would kind of ignore other things to paint. And it might be tempting to say, I can paint anything, or I want to paint everything. I'll paint all things. But what happens is then, if you're painting or you're making something that you're not feeling passionate about, that will show up in the work as it just looks kind of average, or it doesn't have the same kind of feeling that it should. And I know for me, over the decades, for whatever reason, I have been painting pears. And what's happened is over the years, I'm thinking of the pears as people, and I feel like it makes the artwork more interesting or whatever. I'm not painting cantaloupe. It's I don't know why not. I'm not interested in painting cantaloupe, but pears are something that are really are like exciting for me. So it's a thing you want to really just focus on the things that are interesting to you. That's really super key. And so habit 6 is all about following your eccentricities and following your passion. And so think about it this way. Think about what floats your boat. It may be that you're really into capturing expressions of people's faces, or it may be that you love to paint dog portraits, or it might be that you love to make landscapes or sunsets. Whatever it is, focus on that and kind of ignore everything else. Because the most famous artists, if you think about the most famous artists you can think of, they will make certain things, and they always make kind of the same sort of thing. Like maybe they always make landscapes, or maybe they're always painting interiors, or maybe they're always painting figures or certain animals, that type of thing. And so the idea here is you want to really explore your passion. The key here is what not to do is to chase fads. So it might be tempting to be like, oh, I see in the stores they're selling these colors, or I see in the stores these kind of like sailboats or Highland cows, or certain things are popular. I'm going to paint those. But the problem with painting something that you think might be fashionable or trendy is that it's just that. It's going to be a trend, it's going to come and go, and by the time you have the artwork done, that trend or that fad might be out. And so what you want to think about is that you set the trend, or you are the fashion, and it may be that your topic never becomes like fashionable or trendy or whatever. That's actually okay. Because it's really more about the passion that you're feeling and what you're putting out there into your art. And so really focus on that. And kind of as an example, have you ever tried to write a check or sign your name with a pen, and then the pen runs out, so you go get a different one, and then you try and trace over what you had already written, and you find that your signature looks like a forgery, or it looks fake or something. Well, that's what can happen if you try and follow what other people are doing, what other artists are making, or what appears to be trendy, but you're not feeling it, organically. That's what can happen is it can make your work suffer. If you're making something because you're genuinely interested in it and you want to explore it and you're feeling it from deep inside you, then that's the kind of topic that will make wonderful art, that will make art sales, and people will feel a genuine connection with you and with your artwork because of that. All right, so we're on to habit number 7. And habit number 7 that will help you have success in your art sales is to be doing networking. And how to network would be, examples of how to network would be to attend events at your local art museum, to attend events at your local art galleries that are nearby you in your city or in your town or where you can get to easily. Start to make friends and meet people that are at these events. So that would be other artists, art curators, art gallery owners, people who work at the museum, and art enthusiasts and art collectors. And what will happen is, over time, you're going to start to make friendships and these organic relationships. And when you make these organic relationships, they're going to lead to things. So what you don't want to do is don't go to the event and be like, hoity-toity, or be, rude or bad or anything like that. It's all about or try and use people. You don't want to do that. You want to do the opposite of that. You want to think about just making friendships with people that are in the art industry and that are interested in art. And what can happen is there might be an opportunity for an exhibit, and then because they know you, they might say, hey, is that something you're interested in participating in? Or it might be that you meet an artist. I've had this happen where I've become friends with an artist, and then we end up exhibiting artwork together as a two-person show, or we do something like that. Or we get together and we exchange stories and tips and tricks on things that are working for us and things that are not working for us. And it's really neat to have allies, because as artists, like I'm here in my studio right now, you're by yourself a lot of times when you're making art. And so having that kinship with other people is really something that can keep you motivated and also keeps you going. And then here's what not to do. Do not hide from networking because you feel like you're socially awkward. And socially awkwardness can kind of be its own thing, and it's not something to hide from. And so, it's okay if you're a little bit shy, if you're a little bit, kind of like not very good with people. That's okay, because there's so many of us out there that are that same way. And people will want to be friends with you, and people will want to talk with you about your artwork. So you can't say, hey, I'm socially awkward and therefore I can't do any networking. That, just put it aside and just get out there and do it, and you'll enjoy it after a while. Okay, it's true. So a lot of artists are socially awkward. It's just embrace it and carry on. That's okay. But the number one reason that artists fail in their careers to make sales and to exhibit their work is because they're afraid to network. They're afraid to go out there and put themselves out there. And that's the number one thing. Being afraid of showing someone your artwork, being afraid of going to an exhibit and, meeting other artists, meeting people in the art industry. Those are all reasons why, if you don't do them, why you won't be able to have an art career. Because if nobody knows you're there, then they can't buy your artwork and they can't display your artwork. So it's really, really key to put this out of your mind and then to think, okay, I'm going to do this. I can do this. So a lot of us are afraid, and everybody has this feeling like, oh, I don't want to show my work because I'm afraid someone won't like it. Well, not everyone is going to like your artwork, and they shouldn't. Not everybody should like everything, because I think about myself. I think about artists that I love, their artwork. I don't love absolutely everything that they make. So, and that's okay. I think about like a musician, music artist, ones that I absolutely love. I might love, most of their songs, but there might be a few songs that I'm not as big on. And if you start to think of it like that, like, hey, it's okay if people don't like my artwork. That's okay. And that's actually, it's not rejection of you personally. It's just it's maybe not something they're interested or the style they're interested in, and that's okay, because all of us are like that. When we think about music or art that we might resonate with or that we like, we don't like every form of music. We might like certain types of music, but not others. Just like with art, there are going to be people who like your artwork and people who don't. And the faster that you can get into that in your mind, that there will be people who don't like your art, but that's okay, then the faster you'll be on your road to success as an artist making sales. So are you ready for secret tip number 8? This is about resiliency. Always, always, always never give up on making art, no matter what. You might have something that happens in your life, something goes wrong, some kind of disasters happen, whatever it is. The key here is never actually give up. So maybe you're like me and you have some friends who majored in art in college, and now 5 years, 10 years, 20, 15, even 30 years have gone by, but they never did anything with their art degree. They never made art when they came out. They went and worked somewhere else, and they didn't make art in the evenings. They didn't make it on the weekends. They didn't do it, and they just basically gave up. Well, that's an example. Just because you have an art education doesn't mean you're necessarily going to use it. And the converse is true also. You might be like me, where you don't have an art education, but you're self-taught, and then you work from there. But the key is consistency and resiliency and not giving up. You might be a student, you might be out of school, you might be retired, whatever it is that you are, it's never too late to start making artwork. And think about Grandma Moses. So I know someone who had not been making art their whole life. They're in their 50s, and she got cancer. And she beat the cancer, and as part of beating the cancer, she started doing art therapy. And so she then started and she really got into it. She became like, oh, I really want to pursue this. So she started selling her work in galleries, and then she was doing sculpture and doing painting. And then now in her 60s, she's actually in art galleries all across the United States. So there's an example. Here's somebody's doing nothing with art. At 50, something goes wrong with their health. They completely switch gears and they get into art, and it becomes a passion for them, and then they go from there. So the example here is it's never too late to start, and if you've stopped, start again. Pick it back up and be resilient. So having a successful art career is not an easy path. It's not an easy journey. Maybe you know someone who has beaten the odds, but you want to be that person. Be the person that beats the odds. So if you like this content, I hope that you will give this video a like and ring the subscription bell. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed today's video and that you'll come back again to the studio and see me again. So until next time, it's Dena Tollefson. All my best to you. Bye-bye.